Hello and welcome to the 10th episode of the Bucket Lounge Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Garcia, and making his season debut, the long-awaited arrival, Jackson Kowalski. What's up, my guy? How you doing, bro?
What's up, dude? I'm happy to be here and start my tenure here on the
Right, man.
podcast.
Hey, it's pretty
But yeah,
difficult being you're on the East Coast, I'm on the West Coast. Time's just I can only
yeah,
imagine just watching games,
exactly.
especially Laker games too, because they're always on TV. Sometimes they're big games, but that just shows how much of a real NBA fan you are.
Yeah, I think the Lakers game usually start around 10 p.m. here, and they'll go to 12:30. But that's it's not too bad. I'm out here, at Villanova anyways, so I'm
Nice.
watching basketball for the most part, 99% of the day. So yeah.
I don't want to. I'm tired of talking about the Lakers. They don't deserve it. I mean, they're not even. Yeah, we shouldn't even talk about
Are
them.
they
But
three
we
and nine
should,
now?
man. I don't even know, bro. I don't even
Or
want to keep track of them no more,
yeah,
man. I
yeah.
want so teams that are winning and teams that should be talked about on the West Coast. Uh, First in the West, the Portland Trailblazers, led by Damian Lillard and Jeremy Grant, with young additions, Anthony Simons, who's gotten a much bigger role this past season and last season, Shaden Sharp. They got a pretty good team. Obviously, first in the West. What are your thoughts on this Portland Trailblazers team?
Uh, well, initially, I think it's great to see Dame back to playing, Damian Lillard basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait till the first time, I'm going to see the Dame time celebration live in a big game this year. After he had kind of a slump to start the season and then the injury, I miss Dame's basketball game. You know what I'm saying? The strut, the confidence that he had.
Yeah.
But I think what I also got to see from his injury last season was the emergence of Anthony Simons. Love his game. I think he has just such a smooth shot creation. He doesn't need much space, but he's is able to create a lot of it. I think he also is a tough shot maker,
Yep.
and every team needs one of those. And having a pairing backcourt now with two of those, Anthony Simons and Damian Lillard, I think they're one of the better backcourts in the NBA. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
there is, huge backcourts I wouldn't say they're maybe a backcourt in Boston, but in Memphis,
Yeah.
we'll talk about them more. But with Bain and Morant, but I think that's a key to winning a championship. It's becoming a guard-driven league.
Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing that transition take place, especially with teams like the Cavs. Who have transitioned from having a lot of bigs last year to now kind of going guard heavy with Mitchell. But yeah, so overall, what I'm trying to say is they're already playing well. Jeremy Grant, I think, didn't take the dip that I was expecting him to take, coming from having such a big role
Yeah.
with the Pistons and then going to Portland. But then last night, he had an amazing game. I think he had a 30-piece, efficient on both sides of the basketball, good two-way player. And then I think, they haven't even really shown everyone on their team. Gary Payton, he still hasn't played. And what's that going to do for their defense? Even though their defense is already performing at a higher level than I think you would have ever really have seen for a Damian Lillard team. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where they go.
I The one thing you said, he's a tough shot maker. We're talking about Anthony Simons. He's fearless. I was watching the game where they played against Memphis, and he's over here. I don't think Dame played. He was out with he had that little injury, and he's hitting step back shots, and it kind of looked like Dame for a second. And having two of those players, it's kind of similar to having the backcourt of CJ and Dame, how they had past 7 years. But I think on the Jeremy Grant point, I think he's found the right spot, because he went from a guy in Detroit in Denver who was underutilized, who was the fourth option, who was more of a role player. Then he goes to Detroit, gets a huge role where he's a leading scorer on the team, and now he's, you could say, second or third option in the pecking order. And I think they have a nice gel to them. And one major addition that really brings this team together is Josh Hart. He's hit big shots, rebounds the ball, can pass. Really good pick and roll player, and I like this team. They're very gritty, and having Shaden Sharp off the bench, who's a rookie, and his athleticism, his explosion, is major key. Do you think they're a serious contender in the West?
Like the thing I think about when I think about contenders is obviously guys can perform well in the regular season, but in the regular season, most teams are gonna stick to like their motion offense. There's gonna be less like targeted plays, there's gonna be less targeted defenses on just like your average NBA night. So what you're doing well, you're gonna have to do well when teams start having weeks, months, maybe, some teams plan whole seasons for, certain contenders. Like, heard D'Antoni say, that he would plan like the entire team around just trying to beat the Warriors.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like him and the GM. So like when you're in the playoffs, when you're at that level where teams are trying to figure out their whole system about just beating your team system, then it's like, where do your tough shot creators come in? Where are the guys that don't get tired? Where are the guys that show a lot of heart? I think that's what the Blazers really do have going for them is, when they add Gary
Payton.
Peyton back, that's going to be great for their heart, for their defense, which is already doing well. But he's coming off championship experience. He's coming off a team like the Warriors. He can provide that. Dame, he's a vet. You don't have to question his heart. You don't have to question what he's going to give you in the playoffs necessarily. Jeremy Grant, I think he's a dog competitor, right? But is he a tough shot maker that's going to keep up that same level of play in the playoffs? I don't know if I can say that yet about Jeremy Grant. Maybe. But, like, if he can, the more the better, that will propel them. But I think that's, like, one question mark I have. Anthony Simons, he's had games where he's unconscious. He's had games where he's struggled from the floor. What are you going to get from him on, when they have game planned for him and Dame in the backcourt as their two most, threatening guys? So, like, I think this team is right now, I think I would say they're like a second round exit, but I also think like that can change definitely depending on, what I see from them maybe 45 games into the season.
Okay.
So
I think the Gary Payton move will be very crucial when he comes back because you're seeing the Warriors. We'll get into in a bit. They're struggling having that lead defensive presence and also that glue guy. And he does the dirty work as well. And like I said, Josh Hart is kind of filling that role in. It's one thing I've noticed from this Blazers team is they're trying to use Dame more off ball, kind of like similar to Steph Curry, where he's coming off screens. It's less dribbling with the ball. That's what they have Simons creating. So I think this team reminds me of when they went to the conference finals, and that might be the ceiling for them, in my opinion. I think they could get all the way up there. You said second round exit. I think most of us would agree. But I think they're going to be very surprising. And once Gary Payton comes back, I'm sure. Are they missing anyone else? I know they had.
Well, I mean, I think they have a few guys on their team that are like, sort of toying on the waiver wire, or
Yeah.
not waiver wire, toying on like the injury. Sorry, fantasy
I think
football.
Justice Winslow, and trying to think of it now. Justice Winslow, and there's someone else. I think they have some good role players, guys who could be wild cards and good defensively, and we'll see. We just, I think the Peyton move is gonna be. I think he's a really great player. I think when he gets back, he'll show his presence. But moving on, we talked about a little bit about the Warriors. One of the guys that left was Gary Payton. This team has been struggling. Some of the rookies have been having problems with the coaches. James Wiseman just got sent down to the G League for an extended period of time, whatever that means. Kuminga, there's been some problems there. What do you make of the Warriors' troubles?
Well, I think uh, the question is really about the development of their young guys and also what options do they have. So they're obviously not going to uh, do wrong by any of their core group. I don't like they're not going to dish Klay Thompson or Draymond Green to like some awful team or something just to try to salvage. I think if I'm the Warriors, I would honestly think about making a big trade and going for the championship one more time,
Mm-hmm.
and then rebuilding completely. I think that's a very doable option, and then you give guys like Steph Curry the chance to say, "Hey, we'll trade you if you'd like. If you want to be a part of the rebuild, we're more than happy to keep you." I think you do something like that, but I think what you're seeing is just that, uh, guys don't have a lot of opportunity to make mistakes on the Warriors
Yeah.
because they're coming off a championship.
Mm-hmm.
So either, the mistakes from Wiseman are going to be, front and center stage, and everyone is going to see just how awful the mistake is. Whereas, like, Jaden Ivey makes mistakes on the Pistons, but like, we're not talking so much about that because, that team isn't expected to be sort of spotless,
Yeah.
So I think you have guys who are really expected to flourish alongside guys who are guaranteed to flourish in a system that isn't, you go to the Warriors, it's like you better learn this system. It's not like we're gonna try to adapt to what makes Wiseman look good, or we're
I
gonna,
think that's the
you
biggest
know,
problem that they have. I think some of
yeah,
these young
it's like you
guys.
got to learn it. Go ahead.
No, I saw in the last game, Kuminga had came in, and he had gone on a fast break, and usually what he does is just attack, and he pulled it out, and you just seen the whole team, the assistant coaches, even Steph, start clapping. Just that he was patient with the ball, wasn't forcing any shots, and I feel the biggest part of all this, the biggest problem is that some of these young guys don't want to play that kind of the way the Warriors have always played, and they're having problems adapting to it. And like you said, this makes you wonder: should you try to salvage what you have left? We talked about in the last pod with my other co-host. Maybe they trade some of these young guys and go get a guy like Anthony Davis, someone that could be on the block soon. If you were the GM of the Warriors, you were Bob Myers, would you try to salvage the future and try to give up these young guys to get a guy like Anthony Davis or someone that could possibly be on the trade block?
Well, me, if I'm Bob Myers, what I would do is I would start putting out feelers for guys like Kaminga, Wiseman, um, frankly, Jordan Poole, depending on, and I think you have to make a decision, and it's like, are you 100% bought into Jordan Poole being the future of your team?
Mhm.
And if so, like if that's the next Curry that you want to build your team around, I'm not saying he's the next Curry, but if that's the next guy that you're like, this is our guy, we're building around him,
Uh-huh.
then that comes with like, building a team that, can you work alongside Jordan Poole? And so if that's not the direction that that you want to go, I think you give yourself more flexibility by saying, hey, maybe do you guys want Kaminga? He's still, maybe he didn't jump right into our offense, but you guys have more time to actually improve him. Or, how do you feel about Wiseman? We sent him to the G League because we're still chasing a championship. We don't have room for mistakes right now.
Yeah.
Do you want to give us maybe one of your vet guys? Like how would Eric Gordon look on the Warriors? He just runs around, plays defense, hits, jacks up threes. Like I see him fitting alongside those guys just
Yeah.
fine. And I think like that's just a name I threw out there. But in general, I think if you make a big move, you go for it. Even if you don't win it, then in the offseason, you can say, hey, here's our real valuable guys. Give us picks for them. Here's Dre. Here's Clay. Here's Jordan Poole. Here's Steph. If you give them the choice and say, hey, if you don't want to be a part of the rebuild, that'll command tons of picks. You'll have all the pieces. I think Wiggins. You can do essentially kind of like the Jazz did, where you'll be able to get all the picks you're looking for by moving those guys after you go for the big, final conclusion championship repeat this season.
Yeah,
that's what I would do.
It's kind of disappointing because I think this past summer we all saw firsthand that they wanted to give these guys Moody, Wiseman, Kuminga a bigger role. They played them in the summer league almost all the games, gave them a lot of minutes, and it's just disappointing that it's not working out how we expected it to work out. I don't want to jump to the gun like making trades already. Maybe they give it a couple more months, but I think it's something to be very worrisome about, especially with Jordan Poole. He hasn't looked really good, and I've seen you point it out defensively. He's just terrible. Like he's not a good defender. So he has some problems there with consistency, and he needs to find his way in the system. And I also think part of it is some of these guys, you can't just force them to learn your system. You have to be able to adapt to some of these guys' strengths and weaknesses. Not all these guys. Kuminga is not Draymond Green. His IQ is not the same. Can't make some of the passes that Draymond can make. So you have to find in that little gray area where to let these guys operate. So I mean, they're coming off a championship. You still have time to get this together. January, February is when trades happen. So you have till then. So I'm not sure what to make of the struggles. I'm not sure if I should be really concerned about it. I think they'll try to figure things out. And one more other thing is I think if I'm a young guy and I see Klay Thompson starting, I know Klay's been amazing. We know what he's been before, but he hasn't been good this past year and a half. He just hasn't. And I think some of the guys are just kind of getting fed up with that. Like, hey, like we're young, we're good. Give us a shot, and it's a decision that Steve Kerr and the Warriors staff has to make. And we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. Staying in the Pacific Division, a team that has made some moves this past year and a half. The Sacramento Kings are finally above 500, sitting at 8th place in the West right now. They have lit the beam. The city of Sacramento has been really fun. They put on a show beating the Brooklyn Nets, who we'll get into after this topic. Will this be the year the Sacramento Kings make the playoffs?
I think they will. God, I think the worst thing for them would just be to make the playoff. Like, knowing the Kings, this is how I feel like it's going to go. Like, they'll make the play-in as the team that only has to win once. They'll lose twice and, fucking, they'll just not make it somehow. And I think that's exactly, the worst way to go, but it's in total Kings fashion. But I would say that, yeah.
Okay, is that a success in itself? If they do make the play-in, you get a couple playing games, some national TV spotlight. We talked about SBC. Sometimes the goals of teams are just to get some recognition.
Yeah, I do. I think it would almost be like a cruel joke to the fan base, though. And what I mean by that is if you're a team like the Spurs or the Jazz or the Thunder, and it's you're not expected to be good, and then you make the play-in, I think that's exciting. Mm-hmm. Or if you're a team who's maybe an 8 seed and you lose in the play-in or something, it's but you got something to play for. But I think if you're a team that's expected to kind of be good, and it's more of a question mark, why aren't why aren't things working in Sacramento for so long? Why is this drought, 16 years or something now?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
uh, why is this drought so long? I don't think making the play-in would feel as good to like Sacramento fans. I think they want 4 games. They want, even if they go 0-4, if they get swept, I think they want 4 games. I don't think they want,
okay.
2 games or whatever. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, I think this is gonna. I think when you make a move like trading Tyrese Halliburton, the pressure's there, and Monty McNair is going into his last year in his contract. So he made some good moves. I love the Malik Monk move. I love the Terrence Davis. Well, Terrence Davis has been there. Kevin Herter, Red Velvet. They've had some really good players. And yeah, I think they have to make the playoffs. Playing will still be excited, but like you said, when it's unexpected, it's more exciting. This year when you make, like I said, when you trade for Sabonis, trade Tyrese Halliburton, you have to make the playoffs. Um, I think part of some of the Warriors' struggles is like Mike Brown. He's set a culture in Sacramento, defensive minded culture. Even though they're not the best defenders, they still play hard. And you could tell there's something missing in Golden State, and it might have just been Mike Brown. Uh, I think Keegan Murray has played really great. Win now, or he was a NBA ready prospect, a bit older than everyone else. I think this team has been really, really fun to watch, especially yesterday when they beat down the Nets. So yeah, I think this is probably gonna be the year that they actually make the playoffs. I think I said this beginning of the year, so I'm excited for them. So we talked about them beating down the Brooklyn Nets this morning in an interview with Chris Haynes. Kevin Durant, he came out and talked about his team and the state of it, saying when Nash was here, he tried having them do certain drills. Um, he also said when you got guys like Edmund Sumner, Nicholas Claxton, what do you make of KD's comments?
Like, I think it's so funny because it's exactly what everyone already knows. Like, you're right. Your starting lineup of Edmund Sumner, Joe Harris, who I feel bad for Joe Harris, but he cannot move anymore.
Nope.
He's just a liability out there. If he is not hitting shots, if he's not, dead eye from three, he's not valuable.
We've seen him in the last playoff performance. He didn't hit. He was terrible from the 3-point line.
And then coming off the injury, it's like he's just not there. And I feel bad because it's like I liked Joe Harris,
Yeah.
but like I'm not gonna pretend that he is not a liability on the court right now. And like, yeah, Edmund Sumner, good, 6th, 7th guy on a good team to give you some bench points, but like he's no starting guard on a contending team, on a winning team for that matter. I think Royce O'Neal is like, yeah, he can hit threes and he's a good 3-and-D guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think there's a lot of teams out there that love them some Royce O'Neal, but like, we're not expecting like 20 or 20 points a night from Royce O'Neal, are we? And then like Nick Claxton's whole job is to just be there for when Kevin Durant passes it.
Yeah.
Like, he draws 4 guys and then you get the dunk. Like, that's Nick Claxton's whole job. So it is like there's no one creating out there other than Durant. And like, it's like not even worth getting into the whole Kyrie thing. But like, there is no that would have been the other guy to create offense, and he's not here. So
even Ben Simmons too, and I think Kyrie had said earlier. Ben Simmons
well, Ben
is a whole case in itself.
Yeah, it's like that's the thing. It's like, how do you even talk about Durant and the Nets without? It's like, I'm just trying to like ignore the 2 other cases going on and just like try to focus on and the coach is gone now too. So you're like, all right, we're in Jacques Vaughn's system
It's
now.
just a whole mess in
It's a
Brooklyn.
circus.
It's a circus.
I
And
feel bad. Like
as a guy who's a born Laker fan, it's finally nice to see like we're not the
the
piece of
only
Lakers.
laughing stock.
Exactly. We're not the
Yeah.
only brush fire in the league. Um,
Or
so
with
look,
the Rockets too, like they haven't they still look terrible.
yeah. Well, the thing with the Rockets, their expectations is not to win a championship, unlike the Nets and Lakers. So I think they have a couple years
That's
until
true.
you have a real conversation about the Rockets. But okay, so obviously Kevin Durant, when you say stuff like this, you're basically asking to get traded, and the Nets have held back on it tremendously. The whole summer went by; they didn't make a move. Um, Ben Simmons hasn't been what you wanted him to be. Katie's fed up there, and Kyrie's coming in. Um, a team that I think would be perfect for KD. That's not Phoenix or Miami, and that there could a real trade could go down would be the Memphis Grizzlies. How would you feel about a possible duo trio, depending on who's giving in the deal, with KD, John Morant, and or Desmond Bain or Jaren Jackson Jr. if one of those are on the deal? How would you feel about that team?
Like I think that team would be very good. Certainly, I think they'd be contenders, given what they offer. I think they have to. If I'm the Nets, I don't even listen to it without Desmond Bain in the deal. That's me. But I probably want Desmond Bain like Dylan Brooks, probably or one other bench dude, and then like picks galore. So like and I think and the only reason I think that is because like because I do think if Katie went there, that's a championship squad. But like, why would the Nets just like someone is gonna offer you tons for KD,
True.
and so like why would you want to like jump at an offer from the Grizzlies?
No, I get you. I think I'm trying to find a situation every time I think of KD trades where a team can give up guys and still have something there to work with, because the Nets were asking for everyone this past summer. Off the top of your head, are there any real possibilities that you think would be perfect for KD? There's the obvious Phoenix one.
I mean, I think a lot of people say Phoenix, and I think like if you get Chris Paul, Durant, and Booker together, like I think that is, for real. I think that's, really pretty tough team to beat. But there's no, Aiton's gone and Bridges are gone, and in that, at least if I'm the Nets, I'm asking for both of them in that deal. But like, and then probably it's like pick or two, whatever. But like, off the top of my head, like I think the Raptors could get it done, and I think that makes them really dangerous. I really think, Nick Nurse with Kevin Durant and, the right guys, especially if they can retain like Siakam. With that, I think that's a really
Toronto
dangerous
has
team.
a really good package. I think they're one of the teams that would just like to stay put and see how far it goes with what they have. But OG Anunoby just had a 30-piece.
I'm also hearing that, like, I think I just heard today that the Celtics are like, absolutely no, we won't do a Durant for, Jaylen Brown trade. And I'm like, didn't you just offer that in the off season? Like, what? And now, like, I don't care if you're trying to patch things up for the PR, but if you're not doing that trade, what is wrong with you? Like, you were just in the finals, and then you have the opportunity to go from Durant or from Brown to Durant. Like, you do that. I don't know. You do that, in my opinion. But
Really. If I'm the
yeah.
Celtics, I disagree. I think the Celtics, uh, you just went to the finals. I would expect another Jason Tatum. If he was in the finals again, I think he would play a lot differently. So I don't know. I don't know. I feel like it just depends on what the deal looks like. Because I'm assuming that the Brooklyn would want even more with Brown. They probably want Grant Williams, or they probably want Robert Williams, or
Well, that
someone else in the package.
the report was just that it was like they wouldn't do it straight up. But regardless.
Yeah. Anyways, we're gonna take a quick break. We'll be back with some hot takes. All right, we are back. We're gonna finish off with some hot takes that I got off Twitter. I asked if anyone had hot takes. I got a few of them. I'm gonna start off with Alex Hilton. He had said if Jason Tatum keeps playing the way he is, he will win MVP. Not only is he the leader of a contending team, but I think he has a more well-rounded game than Luka and Giannis. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, I do think MVP is in the question for him for sure.
Me too.
But more well-rounded game than Luca and Giannis. Like if you mean by that he is able to score in more ways, um, I don't think his offensive game is more well-rounded than Luca's.
Yeah.
I think it's more well-rounded than Giannis is, but like I'm always gonna be a efficiency over style kind of guy.
Yeah.
Like Giannis is, and
Yeah.
I understand I might have some bias here, but like I think Giannis is the best player in the world, hands down.
Yeah. Me too.
And I just think it might not be always the prettiest the way he gets things done, but he gets the job done at such a high level on both ends of the floor that I really don't
Yeah.
think you can question it.
I-
Long answer, long story short,
No
yes, I
worries.
think MVP is in the cards for Tatum,
Me too.
but the other
I
part of
wouldn't
the
say
question,
well rounded. I think what he means is more like well rounded as in offense and defense. But still, Tatum needs to make a defensive team first before you can say all that. Because Giannis won
yeah.
MVP, Defensive Player of the Year. I don't think it gets more well rounded than that.
However, I will say Tatum should, if he keeps playing where he's at, he should probably make
Yeah.
a defensive team this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, the way he's playing right now, I believe he would be robbed of that if they didn't give it to him.
Okay. Second one here. The Clippers, Paul George for SGA trade was not worth it, especially how everyone talks about the Lakers when they actually got a chip out of it. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big redeeming quality of the Lakers is like you can't argue with a ring.
Mm-hmm.
So as bad as things may look right now, they had a chip. Um, you know, it, SGA for Paul George, I do think they gave up a bit much when they were going for Paul George. But I think, a lot of the NBA GMs are going to tell you, when you think you can get there, when you think you can,
Mm-hmm.
go for a championship, you go for it. And, you know, hopefully you don't end up making too big of a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe this Timberwolves Rudy Gobert thing might turn out to be. Um, but in general, I don't think it was the most ridiculous trade. Like
Yeah.
I don't think people are looking back on it going like, can you believe this happened? Like Shea was good at the time. It's what made the trade work for the most
Mm-hmm.
part, along with all the picks. But like I don't know that the Clippers knew or even the Thunder knew that Shea was gonna be what he is right
Yeah.
now
And also
and what he can be.
it brought them Kawhi Leonard too. So I mean, it was a 2-for-1 deal. Um,
Yeah.
I still think even then at that point in time, Shea wasn't to where he is now. Where Shea looks amazing. Today he just hit a game-winning shot versus the Wizards.
Really?
Looks really good. You couldn't have
Jeez.
it. You can't have waited that long. Um, I I get where he's coming from. Where it'd be nice to still have Shea, especially with this Clippers team, but Kawhi's not playing, so you kind of be in the same boat with uh one man show. I,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
that was
mean that's
very
the
interesting.
thing. It's like you maybe do still have Shea, but then you never had Kawhi either.
Hmm.
And then it's like, what team do you have now?
Yeah,
Who knows? Like, who knows what the Clippers are building if this never went down? And I think you can never plan for health.
yeah, never,
So like, if I
never.
mean, look at their team. They're frankly there were if barring any health injuries at the start of the season, they were my favorite to win the championship this season.
Okay,
So,
me too.
it really just depends. Is Kawhi going to come back and be Kawhi? I don't know.
All right. Well, that's all I have. Do you have any hot takes that you'd like to add or throw in?
My hot takes. Um, I'll tell you. Here's maybe a hot take for you. So people, and it's like sticking with the Thunder and Shea. I'm a big fan of the Thunder. I love watching them play. I'm seeing a lot of this Pokashevsky hype going around, going like,
Poku.
you guys all said he was bad. Y'all said he was bad. Look what
Yeah.
he's doing now. I still don't think he's that good, and I don't think he's gonna be that good. I'm sorry. Like, I don't think that changes, and I think the Thunder hype, like Shea not on the Thunder right now, and then Poku's their main dude or whatever. Like, no one's getting excited about the Poku show. All his hype comes from being associated, man. And it's like from memes and stuff,
Hmm.
because he's like long and lanky, and they talk about like, oh, the Twin Towers, him and Chet and whatever, and like, oh, if they get Wembanyama too, it'll be just like the ridiculous height on OKC. But like, here's basically my hot take, and I'm sorry, Pokashevsky, that has to fall into it. My hot take is like, I think sometimes the NBA gets a little carried away with projects
Yeah.
where they like are almost like there's a sense of pride. Like, look, if we can turn this guy into, whatever,
Giannis. I
then
mean,
look
it
at that.
started
And
with
people
Giannis.
people point to Giannis and they go like, that's who we want him to be, or whatever. Well, the whole point of Giannis is that you get lucky and there's one Giannis.
Yeah.
Like, the whole point of Wembanyama is not that everyone becomes Wembanyama in the future. And I think like, yeah, evolution and things, whatever. But like, look, there's only going to be one Zion. There was one LeBron.
Hmm.
There's one Durant. And as much as you guys want to, not, and I don't mean you guys, but I think as much as NBA media wants to do all these comparisons or whatever, like, it's really, really, really hard to go out, scout a guy, and be like, we can turn him into this.
Yeah.
Like, it's nearly impossible, and it's why no one can still stop Giannis, because no
Hmm.
one else in the league is Giannis.
Yeah. And I don't know. I feel like the
So
media tries to recycle people and skill sets and
yeah,
styles too much, where it's like, as the NBA as we go into the future, like we see positionless players, Victor Wembanyama, 7'5" dude pulling up from like 35, like they're gonna be their own
yeah.
kind of players. You can't replicate it.
Like the thing with Ja, people say like, oh, is was
Oh, that's another
Ja's
thing.
like a cross between a Westbrook and a?
D Rose,
No, he's not a cross between a whatever. He is
just
the
John.
only Ja we've ever
Yeah,
seen. We haven't
yeah,
seen this before. That's why
yeah.
he's so exciting. And I think that there is more benefit from just drafting for the guys that you think will legitimately be the best that you can be,
Mm-hmm.
and that or best that they can be, and will legitimately impact your team. And then from that, you can move forward. But like, this sort of trend that I think I'm seeing from teams where that the Thunder are kind of going down, where they're like, well, we have 35 picks, So if we miss on 30, we'll get 5 really good guys and we'll compete for a championship. Like that is not the way to go. You can't. I talk about the Wizards, when I look for poor drafting because I'm like Hachimura, uh Kispert, uh
Of the
Johnny Davis doesn't even play.
yeah,
And who is the Denny Avdia, like is
any,
a kind of a role player, like 4 years in a row. Were those like all top 10 picks
mm-hmm.
or
Yeah.
whatever? It's like you can't I can name guys in the top 10 that are good.
Mm-hmm.
4 times, like who's in that regard, so like that's a whole other tangent. But basically, like that's the thing. I think there's too much of, well, once our staff gets this guy, we'll turn him into this
Mm-hmm.
superstar. Like there's a reason he's probably looked at by most teams the way he is, and it's unlikely that you'll be the team that's like, oh no, we saw something in him that you guys didn't see. Like
Yeah.
it's unlikely.
Yeah. Well, anyways, we're gonna close this out. I know you had one couple other thoughts. Did you want to bring them up before we go?
Um, we'll have other episodes out
Sure.
there to talk about. I'll keep the chatter
Good.
still in my
All right.
brain right now.
Well, that was episode 10 of the Bucket Knowledge Podcast. Jackson, thank you for making your season debut. Looking forward to having you
Absolutely.
on for future episodes.
Yeah, for sure. I'm happy to be on.
All right, guys, we're signing off. Peace.